I'll go ahead and read our ethics statement. In accordance with the State Government Ethics Act, it is the duty of every board member to avoid conflicts of interest. If any board member have any known conflict of interest with respect to any matters coming before the board today, if so, please identify the conflict and refrain from any participation in any particular matter of law. Good.
We can go around and do introductions. Commissioner Ensley, would you mind starting us down there?
Kevin Inslee, Taylor County.
Sorry to interrupt your lunch.
Shannon Gaunt, Chuck McGrady. I'm on the NCDOT board at large member.
Sheila Franklin, Henderson County Commissioner.
Jim Blair, Town of Fletcher.
Sandy Broadwell, Land of Sky Regional Council.
Katie O'Connor, French River MPO.
Hannah Bagley, French River MPO.
Tristan Winkler, French River MPO.
Jennifer Hensley, the City of Henderson Valley.
Matthew Wetzel, Madison County.
Jim McAllister, Town of Woodford.
Tim Anderson, Division 13. Nathan Monaghan, Division 13. Steve Williams, Division 14. Doug Phillips, Division 13.
Hannah, could you take us around online?
Yes. Brandon Rogers.
Yes, go ahead.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers.
Hey, thank you. I can't hear you too good.
Daniel Sellers.
Daniel Sellers, NCDOT's Transportation Planning Division.
Drew Ball.
Drew Ball, Buncombe County.
Drew Stevens.
Hi, Drew Stevens, Town of Biltmore Forest.
Emily Whitmire.
Emily Whitmire, Village of Flat Rock.
George Banta.
I'm George Banta, Town of Laurel Park.
Kim Roney.
Kim Roney, City of Asheville.
Mark Endries.
Hi, Mark Endries, Town of Weaverville.
Sage Turner.
Hello, Sage Turner, City of Asheville.
Devin Sparks. Susan Dean.
Yes, here. I heard that.
Ada McGovern.
Multitask.
Hey there, Ada McGovern, safe routes to school.
Did I miss anyone?
Billy Clark just came and went, but I'm sure he'll be back. DOT Division 13, Border Transportation.
Excellent, thank you. Okay, do we have any public comments today? You don't mind coming up and just stating your name and address?
Thank you. My name is Brad Pressler. I live at 135 Shank Parkway, which is in Asheville, North Carolina. I'm a parent at STS Elementary and the chair of the Biltmore Park HOA Neighborhood Safety Committee. I'm here about the school corridor along Overlook Road, Long Shoals Road, Pinchot Drive, and Springside Road. That is home to 4 Buncombe County schools. It's roughly 3,500 students. 2 school buses have been involved in collisions in this corridor in under a year. NCDOT's own crash data shows that Overlook Road is at 3.2 times the statewide crash average, 58 crashes and 34 injuries in 4 years. In October of 2025, NCDOT's MSTA unit completed a traffic operations study for the corridor. And the study found that multiple intersections along Overlook Road already operating at level of service F, the worst possible grade. Long Shoals Road at Overlook, which carries 38,000 vehicles per day, is projected to degrade to LOS F by 2029. The study recommends a traffic signal at Long Shoals and Miami Circle and internal circulation changes at all 4 schools. The study has been delivered. The data is clear, and I'm happy to share the full report with any board members who'd like to review it, but implementation is stalled because no single jurisdiction owns the problem. Overlook and Long Shoals are state roads. Keenshaw and Springside are city roads. The city's work group is scoped to city roads, and that leaves the state roads where the worst crash data is concentrated without a coordinating body. So that's the gap that I hope this board can fill. I'm asking the MPO to examine what role it can play in coordinating across jurisdictional response and identifying federal funding pathways, including safe routes to school and transportation alternatives set aside for the corridor. The study exists, the recommendations exist. What's missing is someone to own the implementation across jurisdictions. Thank you very much for your time.
Thank you.
Is there anyone online who would like to make public comment? If so, please make a note in the chat or raise your hand. Just really quick, we did get a comment via email that was asked to be read. It is from Rachel Bronson. She said, I support the creation of a pedestrian and bicycle advisory committee for the French Broad River MPO as a replacement for both the Citizens Advisory Committee, on which I served for 6 years, and the Hellbender Regional Trail Work Group. I believe this would be a great benefit to small but growing communities in our region, such as Weaverville. For clarity, I recommend naming it PBAC, placing a slight emphasis on the pedestrian aspect. Consolidating these advisory functions into a single focused committee would improve coordination and collaboration. It would also strengthen meaningful community engagement and technical expertise around walking and bicycling, topics that are increasingly important to the people of our region. A dedicated committee would provide local advocates with access to peer support, shared best practices, and regional resources, while also increasing an understanding of how transportation planning and funding decisions are made. By demystifying these processes, the committee could help cultivate informed stewards who are better equipped to support local governments in advancing pedestrian and bicycle projects across the MPO region. I envision a PBAC whose members can draw on a deeper understanding of regional transportation challenges and opportunities. By connecting with peers, sharing knowledge, and accessing new funding opportunities, they are better equipped to turn challenges into meaningful progress for the communities they represent. My viewpoint is shaped by several years of involvement in community advisory and planning groups. After the dissolution of the Citizens Advisory Committee, I have continued my commitment to local citizen-led groups through a 3-year tenure on Weaverville's Pedestrian Bicycle Committee, known as Active Weaverville. Thank you for the opportunity to share my opinion.
Anybody else?
Councilmember Roney, you have your hand raised?
I do. I know that this isn't the period necessarily for us to engage in dialogue with public comment, but I wonder what it might look like for us to follow up with the first commenter around what's happening in the South Asheville corridors, around safe routes to school. What grant or funding options are there that we have been pursuing, where this project might fit in the timeline so that we can get in front of future accidents happening? There's 4 schools along this corridor, and there's some serious safety issues. I know we have some study documents around it, but what does it look like for us to get an update on this?
Sure. So both Overlook Road and Long Shoals Road have been identified for improvements in the comprehensive transportation plan. Long Shoals Road for access management and complete streets, Overlook Road for a modernization, including complete streets. And so those are identified in long-range plans. But as we update planning documents, such as MTP, and as we start new prioritization cycles, we will be looking for local priority projects to move forward. Beyond that, there are some small sets of funds, some that NCDOT controls with some spot safety improvements and HSIP and other funding buckets. And Ken, Nathan, Steve, Doug, correct me if I'm wrong, those would be a little more limited in scope for what they could do. There's also the MPO's direct allotment of surface transportation block grant funds Those aren't available right now, but we anticipate them being available in the relatively near future. And those would also be of limited scope, but would be a potential venue for pushing a smaller project forward.
Has the city of Asheville prioritized this project before when we've done our prioritization?
So in previous cycles, I think it's been a few rounds. This MPO has submitted Overlook Road, and we have submitted Long Shoals Road access management for prioritization. They did not score well enough. Well, I shouldn't say, I can't recall if it was scoring or funding, but they did not get funded in the processes they were put into.
Do you know how long ago that was?
I don't.
Yeah, okay. I mean, this could change, especially with additional data and safety data too. Kim, we'll get his contact info as well too, so that we can follow up.
Thank you so much.
So if it's okay, before we move on from it, while he's here, we just completed the project on the far side, on the north side of the Overlook. And so I guess a little quick discussion about schools with NCDOT. We have an MSTA program, and what this group does is they evaluate schools. Now, in a perfect world, an entity would come to DOT and go, we're looking to build a school. We have identified several properties. This is how many students. This is kind of what we're looking at for configuration with some kind of site plan. MSTA would evaluate those, make adjustments, recommend adjustments to that, and then the county would go buy that piece of land and build that school. It never works that way because it's hard to find a big old chunk of land that a county can afford. And so they buy the one piece of land they can afford and then build a school, and you maximize the school, and then here comes the traffic issue. And you think about some of the issues, some of the information out of that program, 650 schools, or 650 kids in the school, and there's 7 buses, 11 buses. You do the math on that. The majority of the kids are just not riding buses. You put 60 kids in a bus, 30 kids in a bus, that's 30 cars you've eliminated from the line. That eliminates 30 cars that interact with the bus when the bus tries to leave. That is something DOT struggles to change. Safe routes to school may have some options there. One great thing about that location, you have you have the 4 schools in a very close area, and they're close to neighborhoods. So MSTA did know that there were a lot of kids that were walking to school. Business life starts the same time school life starts, so you have that interface, and those are societal pieces. But we have the MSTA, we have those recommendations. I'm not sure how many of them the school systems implemented. Our recommendations are to put the school traffic on school property. That's the goal of MSTA. Whether that's dual lane loading zones, serpentines inside the facility, just like any other traffic generator, we try to put that traffic on that site. If those haven't been implemented, then that reduces the ability to stack on site. Then you have the issue of folks exiting, so it compounds. But we have that section. We have MSTA. There are city streets there. I think one of the buses hit a parked car. I'm not sure what the other bus incident was, but I think the biggest piece of it would be we need to take a look from a congestion management and from safety standpoint to see what those issues are. Identify them clearly. Once you identify them clearly, then we can start looking for those funding sources. Is it a TAP fund? Is it a spot safety project? Spot mobility? To get some of those smaller things done. In the meantime, if they get prioritized, then those are just big overarching repairs for that.
Yeah, and Ada put a good point in the chat, and just so people are aware, Safe Routes to School is not an infrastructure grant. It hasn't been for roughly a decade. So Ada's program is funded with non-infrastructure funding, but about a decade ago, as the federal transportation law was being crafted, it took the Safe Routes to School program and consolidated it with other federal programs. So it's eligible as an activity with some of the grants Tim and I have mentioned, but it is not a standalone grant that is out there for us to pursue right now. Cam, you have your hand raised. Is that still, or?
I had a follow-up just to make sure that everyone is aware. The neighborhoods have already been identifying some of the issues, especially along Overlook. What appears to be happening, because I went to visit the area and understand what's happening in peak travel times, is that some of the traffic is choosing to divert into the neighborhoods because of the issues along Overlook. And so because the neighborhood has done some already, data, granted it's on the ground data analysis, one might check out their website where they're compiling this. It's safeschoolsavl.org. That's safeschoolsavl.org. And I did forward this to Tristan so that staff would be aware of the community concerns. So hopefully that can help if we're looking for some more resources and connectivity with the concerned residents.
Thank you. Okay, do we have any more public comments? Let's go ahead and move on to the agenda and the consent agenda. Everybody has time to look over that. Motion to approve.
Madam Chair, I move that we approve the agenda and consent agenda.
Second.
Okay, and we'll go ahead and take roll. Who seconded that? I'm sorry.
Chuck.
Asheville, Kim Roney.
Aye.
Asheville, Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Bean.
Aye.
Weaverville, Mark Entries.
Aye.
And Woodson, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay, moving on to our first order of business is the reprogramming of the rescinded 5310 funds.
Take it away, Daisy.
All right, give me just a second to get it pulled up here. All right, so we're back to 5310 funding today. The current conditions, the City of Asheville is the designated recipient for 5310 funds, has informed the MPO, has informed the MPO of Madison County's desire to forego two of their previously awarded funding allocations. The two funding allocations in question are for fiscal year 2021 in the amount of $23,707 intended for the expanded transportation program, and fiscal year 2022 in the amount of $33,414 intended for the senior transportation to meal sites program. This makes available $57,121 to be used for 5310 funding, and staff is asking for guidance regarding how to reallocate the funding. For the 5310 overview of project selection, the selection process may be formula-based, competitive, or discretionary, but the general expectation is that it be an established process. So today we have two decision points for the board. Whether to allocate additional funding to administrative funds for the City of Asheville, and then how to handle the reallocation of remaining funds to projects. So with the first decision point, per FTA Circular 9070.1H, which governs the use of FTA Section 53 funding, up to 10% of the recipient's total fiscal year apportionment may be used to fund program administration costs, including administration, planning, and technical assistance for projects funded under this program. So we look back at previous years, ranging back from fiscal year 2021 to present, and we found that the City of Asheville only received 6% of its possible 10% in administration funding in fiscal year 2022. Our first option with administrative funds is that the the MPO board could recommend raising the administrative funding in fiscal year 2022 to 10% or $51,125 total. Doing so would require $20,104 out of the available $57,121, leaving a remaining $37,017 to reallocate. And this is the option that was recommended by staff, the prioritization subcommittee, and TCC. Our other option is TCC the MPO board could allocate 10% of the available $57,121 or $5,712 as administrative funding. And so just wanted to pause there, and we need a vote on which of those two options the board favors at this point. And I can entertain any questions on what I just said.
You put option 1 back up.
Sure.
Thank you. Why did the TCC what was the basis on which TCC made this recommendation as opposed to the other option?
Solely because in 2022, the City of Asheville only received $6,000 or 6% of the available 10% in funding in an attempt to try to make more funding available for projects during that funding cycle.
Well, I certainly appreciate the fact that the City of Asheville voluntarily forwards that portion of the money to allow other projects to be fulfilled. But I think this is a good discussion for us to have. See what everybody's thinking.
My preference would be, to move them funding to another project as opposed to put it backwards to a previous year administrative fund. I mean,
not much punch with an administrative fund.
Well, that's right. It's money is money, and it's just going backwards. And I won't support the TCC's recommendation here. I would prefer to see the money put towards another project. And if we need to adjust then the administrative fees in the current recommendation, I'd be supportive of that to represent the new number. But I don't know that I've ever seen quite this backward look.
I would agree with you.
And that's what you're calling options 1 and 2 of the 3 possible scenarios?
Correct.
They're different. Additional call for projects only for that amount, right?
Where, if you back up a little bit on the presentation, so yes, the additional call for projects will be what would remain on what doesn't get allocated to administrative funds. And so if we were to allocate funding to the current call for projects for administrative funds, that amount would be $5,712.
Is there a problem in terms of getting additional projects identified that can be funded here?
The only issue is that for this year's call for projects, in terms of additional projects, we didn't receive that many calls for marine responses to the call for projects. We did only fund the projects at 82% of the request this year, and so there's still a need to get those projects up to 100% for additional funding.
So that's one of the options, as opposed to opening it up for a new project. We could come back and put the money requested to these other projects.
Correct, and that's what was recommended by the TCC in prioritization.
And yeah, I think just from staff perspective, holding a call for projects for that small amount of funding being rescinded.
Yeah, it's a lot of work for not much bang.
Right.
So doing that, reallocation would allow all projects to be funded at 93% instead of 82%, correct? What's that option called? We need a number or name on it.
That's scenario 2. We're not to that portion. That's our second vote.
Sorry, David.
That's okay.
That's our second vote.
But if you're taking some of the funds to replenish a percentage from a couple years ago, then neither of those options would be what we would want to vote on right now, then, correct? If
We can go to scenario 2, look at the remaining scenarios just to see what the full picture looks like, if that's helpful for the board.
What's vote number 1?
Vote number 1 is to decide whether to reallocate funding to the administrative funds.
We have to vote on that?
Yes.
You have to vote on option 1 before you can even entertain the thought of option 2. Is that what you're saying?
Yeah, so we know how much money is remaining.
Why do we have to vote on option 1? I'm a little confused.
So
the recommendation.
Yeah, I mean, honestly, the board could just bundle a vote if they wanted to. We just kind of presented that for simplicity. The thing is that the first part of this is there has been a request from the city of Asheville to make them whole again with administrative funding. And they did note that if there's a good amount of administrative work, even when a project is rescinded. And so the first decision is kind of how much administrative funding do we want to make, or do we want to program for the city, since they do administer the 5310 funds. And the second part of this is reliant on that admin budget. With one option that's being presented, there would be roughly $30,000 to program to the rest of the projects. If we went with option 2, there'd be roughly $50,000. So the decision the board makes about how much admin funding to give to the city impacts how much funding we provide to other projects.
But that's 2022. Those books have long been closed.
Right, but some of the funds that were programmed since they're being rescinded, they're still being worked on, they're still available, and our understanding is some of those funds could be reallocated towards admin.
I wouldn't want to be the accountant trying to do that.
Councilmember Cameroni has her hand up as well.
Thank you so much. So I just wanted to confirm briefly before I make a motion on phase 1, because this is a 2-phase approach the way it's in our agenda. Can staff confirm that both the prioritization subcommittee recommended this, but also that our TCC recommended it unanimously?
I believe that's correct.
That said, I move to approve option 1 and decision 1 regarding the fiscal year funding 2022 at 10% or 51,125.
This is Sage. I'll second.
Should be noted it's both the Asheville representatives. Of the 5310 projects, what percentage of those are actually Asheville-related projects?
I'll pull that list up.
Sorry, go ahead, Dave.
The 4 projects for this year's call for project for fiscal year 2025 were the City of Hendersonville's Accessible Pedestrian Signals, Buncombe County's CEDSAP program, Buncombe County's Ride Voucher program, and the Council on Aging's Buncombe County's Door-to-Door Transportation for Seniors program.
Thank you.
So a follow-up would be that the way that I'm reading it is that all the 2025 funds are being administered by the city of Asheville, but the city of Asheville is not receiving those funds?
They didn't in 2022, right?
They're going to get it for 2025.
In 2022, the project, let me pull that list up.
What does option one have to do with 2025?
Option,
2025 money going back to 2022 on the books.
Just solely because the city of Asheville didn't receive their 10% allocation for 2022.
Okay, that's fine.
Okay, so we're voting on option one. Asheville Kimroni.
Aye.
Asheville Sage Turner.
Aye.
BOT Division 13 Billy Clark.
I'll vote aye.
BOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
No.
Buncombe County Drew Ball.
Aye.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
No.
Flat Rock Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Haywood County Brandon Rogers.
Aye.
Haywood County Kevin Inslee.
No.
Henderson County Sheila Franklin.
No.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley.
No.
Laurel Park George Banta.
No.
Madison County Matt Wechsel.
No.
Mills River Shannon Gahn.
No.
Fillmore Forest Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit Susan Dean.
Aye.
Weaverville Mark Endry.
Aye.
And Woodson Jim McAllister.
No. And you didn't get me.
Oh, I'm sorry. Mills River Shannon Gahn.
Jim Player.
Or, sorry. What's your Jim Player?
No.
10-9. So we can either entertain another motion.
What was the tally?
It was 10-9, 10 no's, 9 ayes. So we could entertain a different motion. We could have a different discussion.
We'll be voting on option two, will we not?
Yes.
Which is the other option?
To reallocate to projects for 2025.
Correct.
I move we,
And provide the administrative funding, right?
This would just be to provide 10% of the available $57,121 for administrative funding, or $5,712 is what we're voting on right now. That's what we're voting on right now.
I did understand that we could potentially bundle
Yes.
the motion as well
Correct.
to increase the funding overall to this project. Did you say when it's to 92%?
93%.
93, sorry. So that is an option.
it'd be option two combined with number two under funding reallocation.
Correct.
Okay. If you're ready, I'll make a motion that we approve that.
Go for it. So moved? Okay.
Second.
Okay. And do a roll call? Sorry, 1 second. I'm making sure that I have these motions correct. Asheville Kimroni.
No.
Asheville Sage Turner.
Nay.
BOT Division 13 Billy Clark.
Aye.
BOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County Drew Ball.
No.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County Brandon Rogers.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley.
Aye.
Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wexel.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Fillmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Dean.
No.
Weaverville, Mark Endries.
No.
And Woodson, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it. 14 copies, yes. Okay. Let's go ahead and move on to the Vice Head Advisory Committee discussion.
Do we have more to cover?
No, that's it.
Okay.
Oh, what did you think? Oh, sorry, Tim, I didn't see your hand. Is that still up or? You're up.
Sorry, that was lingering.
Okay.
Thank you.
Okay, 1 second. So this is an item that is coming back to the MPO board after a few months. Just as a little bit of background on this discussion, so this has been roughly a year of discussion. Back in April of last year, the Citizens Advisory Committee recommended dissolving due to the low attendance. We brought that to the TCC board. The board elected to table the dissolution of the committee at that time, citing the limited opportunities for direct public involvement at the MPO, should that committee be dissolved, and requested that we bring it back to the Citizens Advisory Committee for further discussion. We held another meeting with that group in the summer. They again voted to dissolve themselves. And they made 2 recommendations. One would be adding at-large seats to the prioritization subcommittee, or adding a bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee to the MPO. The prioritization subcommittee discussed this and did not recommend adding at-large seats to that subcommittee. And last fall, the board approved dissolving the Citizens Advisory Committee, and part of the feedback we got from this group was to start to look into that bicycle and pedestrian advisory committee recommendation. So that is what we have been doing. Again, this committee would essentially replace the Citizens Advisory Committee as a committee that would be a place where the public at large would be appointed and discuss things and make recommendations to the TCC and board. From a staff perspective, it would also replace our Hellbender Regional Trail Work Group. And in terms of looking at the work tasks for this committee, we would be looking at complete streets recommendations on prioritization projects. This is something maybe not a lot of people know. Every time we enter a project in prioritization, we submit complete streets recommendations with that project submittal. In the past, we did have a complete streets work group whose basically sole task it was to vet those cross sections and recommend those to the board before they went to prioritization. Also help identifying safety needs and hotspots, regional plan input, community engagement support, and highlighting emerging issues. For those of you who have followed this topic, there's been a lot of things that have emerged, especially in the last decade, whether that's the rise of e-bikes, bike share, and kind of the increasing research being done on how to get more people walking and biking. So how that would work in terms of the MPO's overall structure, this is roughly our current structure, although with the defunct Citizens Advisory Committee, if we added the Bike Ped Advisory Committee or Ped Bike Advisory Committee, we would also see it as an opportunity to consolidate that committee and the regional trail work group. And one thing we've noted in past discussions is that in looking at other MPOs, these are all of the wonderful acronyms of MPOs across the state. CAMPO, WIMPO is my favorite, that's Wilmington. But a Bike Ped committee is one of the most common committees found at MPOs across the state. Last month, we talked a little bit about the proposed bylaws. We kind of brought up the range of 9 to 15 potential members for this committee. And the board recommended a smaller committee. So the draft bylaws you have in your packet do reflect 9 members. And again, something we put in the bylaws is making it very clear this committee would provide recommendations to the board and TCC on bike ped related matters, and as well as providing a regional forum for bike ped stakeholders. In our last discussion, we did talk a bit about how members would be appointed. So besides the request for a smaller committee, a request was made for each county to appoint 1 member, and another request was made for municipalities to make appointments as well. So we did develop a few different appointment scenarios to consider if this is the path people want to go down. One would be we can have a scenario where the MPO, TCC, and board essentially appoint all 9 members. We would reserve 4 seats to make sure there's a minimal amount of representation from each of the counties at the MPO. And that would be that. The other 5 seats would be at large and would be appointed at the discretion of the board. Appointment number 2 would be having each county commission make 1 appointment. So there would be 4 seats made appointed by county commission. And the other 5 seats would be appointed by the TCC and board from an at-large request for applications. And this, I'll be honest, I struggled with a 9-seat committee with municipal appointments, but I think this is the best we could do. So we had, the MPO board makes no appointments. Each county commission makes 1 appointment each. Asheville would make an appointment as the largest jurisdiction. And then we get into our rotating seats. We would have 1 seat rotating between some of the larger municipalities in Buncombe County, Black Mountain, Weaverville, and Woodbine. Another seat rotates between larger municipalities in Henderson County, Hendersonville, Fletcher, and Mills River. And another seat rotating between Haywood municipalities, Waynesville, and Canton. And then we would have another seat that rotates amongst all of these smaller municipalities, including Biltmore Forest, Clyde, Flat Rock, Laurel Park, Maggie Valley, Marshall, and Montreat.
Question.
Yes.
It's appropriate. Under that scenario, it says each jurisdiction, council or commission would provide the appointment. You go to seat number 6, Buncombe municipalities. Would you say we would take turns?
Yes, I think under this scenario that is what we were proposing, but we are open to ideas on this.
Oh, the scenario 3, while it sounds very equitable, I guess, I think it would be an administrative nightmare.
That would...
By all of these appointing authorities, they don't know whether it's their time up or not. I really would urge us to stay away from scenario 3 just on the cost to somebody of having to keep up with all this. The other ones are cleaner.
Staff appreciates that comment.
And regarding number 2, it could be like other boards where a county, I won't name names, appoints somebody and they don't show And then we have that problem, and that problem exists pretty regularly, as we all know. I like number one.
Just to note, the CCC did recommend scenario 2, but yeah, it's up to the board.
Was there a consensus on why that was passed?
I think in general they felt that met kind of the request for some appointments to be made from our local governments, while also the way I put it is not having so much rotating going on that staff would be perpetually busy. To be clear, we like the idea of people being able to appoint, but it's difficult to do with the number of jurisdictions we do and 9 seats.
I'll make it a motion to we adopt scenario number 2 just to get it on the table.
I'll second.
Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Asheville, Sage Turner.
Aye.
BOT Division 13, Billy Clark.
Aye.
BOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Houston, Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers.
Aye.
Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye, I think I'm okay with it.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Madison County, Matt Wechsel.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest, Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Urban Transit, Susan Keene.
Aye.
Weaverville, Mark Endry.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
I'll go with it. Aye.
The ayes have it.
Okay, great. So I assume at some point we'll kind of come out with a application process and get moving forward on that. It's good to have public comment. So, okay, let's move on to CA local input point methodology.
Okay, I'll try to go through this quick, but if anyone has questions, feel free to stop. Just as a reminder of what we're talking about the prioritization process. That is the step between our long-range plans and figuring out what transportation projects should be funded next. And there are a lot of steps we go through as part of the MPO. We started that by submitting projects for this round of prioritization last fall. We are currently MPO staff and NCDOT staff is currently going through the exhilarating process of data verification before we get to our quantitative scores. But coming up in a couple of steps will be the local input point assignment. And how we assign local input points is really what we're talking about today. Just as a reminder, with the prioritization process in North Carolina, it splits funds up into 3 different funding tiers. The first is the statewide mobility tier. That's mostly our interstates and freeways. That has the largest amount of funds in this process, 40% of all the funds in prioritization. Projects are selected across the state. And they are selected solely based on the quantitative score that projects receive. The next tier is regional impact. Funds are distributed to 7 different regions around the state. Ours is Region G, and funding is distributed based on the population of those regions. To note, we have the second smallest population in Region G, so we receive the second smallest allocation of regional impact funds. And those are funds that could go to highway projects on our US and NC routes, as well as, to note, our passenger rail project competes in this funding tier, and anything from statewide can cascade down. And then there's division needs. Funding is distributed to the 14 divisions equally. And so that includes projects that are on secondary roads, bike ped projects, transit projects, as well as anything cascading from regional to statewide. And projects in Division 13 compete with other projects across the division, and the same thing for Division 14. And to note, statewide projects are selected solely based on quantitative score. So our I-26 projects, our I-40 projects, those will be selected just on quantitative score. Regional impact includes local input points. Those are points that are submitted by MPOs, RPOs, and NCDOT divisions. And so a project score and the regional impact here, 70% of that is the quantitative score, and 30% comes from the MPO as well as NCDOT divisions. So that's our chance to influence how a project scores. As the division needs here, that local input increases. So 50% of a project's overall score is based on quantitative metrics. 25% comes from the MPO and 25% from the DOT division. So how this works, an overly simplistic example of how this works, if a project scores a 20 at the division needs tier with its quantitative score, and we put our points on, that'll boost the project by 25 points. And if the DOT division puts points on as well, it gets another 25 points. So your project gets a 70. If it's a project we don't like, or if there's projects that we like more than this one, we don't have to put points on it, and its total score will turn to a 45. And all in all, that's important because higher scoring projects have a better chance of being funded. It's our way of influencing the outcome of what gets funded or not. One of the ways. So, in terms of where we put points or what projects we put points onto, we are required to create a local input point methodology. Some general points of our methodology that are worth making people aware of. So this hasn't changed in some time. We've noted that projects must be intentionally cascaded. There is no default cascading. For those of you who have been around back when there was money available, we had a number of votes, especially on projects like I-26, about whether or not to cascade those projects into other funding tiers. We do that intentionally to make sure that that is something that this board wants to do, because that does have pretty major impacts on the lower funding tiers. We do reserve a minimum of 100 points at the regional impact tier for non-highway projects, a minimum of 500 points at the division needs tier for non-highway projects, and up to 500 regional impact points can be moved to division needs if we choose to do so. And the other thing that's a bit unique about our methodology is we make our local input points somewhat fiscally constrained. That means as part of our methodology, there's a minimum number of points we'll put on a project, but when funding is constrained, we try to cap that at 150% of the funding available. That's just in reaction to, I think when we started this, there was one round we put points on roughly $2 billion worth of projects when there was about $200 million available. It helps us really think through those priorities. How we score aviation, rail, and transit is mostly based off of the quantitative score. So it's mostly how likely is a project to be funded, as well as whether or not it's considered a local priority, and where a project is in the planning process. The things that we're recommending changing for P8, they are, I would say, very slight modifications. And we'll go through those. In terms of how we prioritize highway projects, this is the rough breakout. We have a very robust methodology. We look at a lot of things. We are not recommending changing how those things are weighted this round. But one thing we are recommending changing is how we score safety. Currently, the way we score safety is based solely on what the safety score is from the prioritization quantitative score. We are recommending adding data from the Safe Streets for Western North Carolina plan to help supplement that. So safety is still our top rated criteria in this criterion, but the way we're scoring it, we're mixing it up a little bit and adding that high entry network data from our regional safety plan. For biped, we currently have a very simple methodology. It's basically the quantitative score, local priority, and where it is in the planning process. We are recommending adding a couple of things. The quantitative score would still be the most important metric. It would take up 50% overall of what we'd be looking at. But we're adding the vulnerable road user high entry network from our regional safety plan to make up 15% of the overall score. And another 10% would come from Hellbender Regional Trail considerations, whether that's a connection or an actual project. The subcommittee recommended that we go through and test score a few different scenarios, and what we found for biped was adding the safety data as well as the regional trail data helped provide a bit of a balance, especially for some of the projects we have in smaller communities. Those are the only two things we are recommending changing for this round of prioritization. To note, there are some things coming up, especially in May. We anticipate the release of statewide mobility projects getting programmed. We also, people are very excited about an updated financial forecast. Then we'll get into the local input points in June. But in general today, you do have a link in your packet to our local input point methodology. There is a requirement that be adopted this month. The TCC recommendation was to approve as submitted, as was the prioritization subcommittee. And to note, NCDOT, the prioritization office has given preliminary approval of our methodology.
I'll make that motion, Madam Chair.
Okay.
To adopt the proposed changes to the prioritization.
Excellent. Asheville, Kimroni.
Aye.
Asheville, Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 13, Billy Clark.
Aye.
DOT Division 14, Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Drew Ball.
Aye.
Buncombe County, Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Canton, Dr. Rob Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock, Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher, Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County, Brandon Rogers. Haywood County, Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County, Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville, Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park, George Banta.
Aye.
Mills River, Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Fillmore Forest, Drew Stevens. Urban Transit, Susan Bean. Weaverville, Mark Endry.
Aye.
And Woodfin, Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Thank you. Okay. Amendments to the 2035.
Take it away, Hannah.
So there are quite a few amendments in your packet. I'm not going to go through all of them. There are about 42 amendments this month. But some highlights are, we were programming the 5310 and JARC projects from the call for projects. That might change due to the vote earlier this meeting. So that might be coming back to the board next month for approval for those projects. I-25
513AC, which is the project on 240 north of I-40 to Haywood Road. The total project cost increased from $275.7 million to $317.7 million, not $390. I was looking at also previously programmed funds for that. So that did not increase. That didn't increase as much as that was in your packet. EB 5831, which is the Cost Avenue pedestrian improvement. That is moving right of way from FY 26 to 27, with construction also beginning in FY 27. And then EB 5824, which is the Hominy Creek Greenway. That is delaying construction from FY 27 to FY 28. The full packet is in the full amendment packet is in your board packet. If you have any questions, please feel free to ask me. Councilmember Rooney has the hand raised. Sorry.
Yeah, thank you for this update. Can you share what projects these funds are being pulled from?
What projects these funds are being pulled from?
Right, so because we're prioritizing funds moving in this direction, just like the thread being pulled from the sweater, what is losing funding because these are being prioritized?
Yeah, that's a good question. In terms of the funding increases impacting other projects, there's not really a direct line between projects. What really is being impacted are the future funds being made available. So the more that costs increase on projects in our regional impact tier, for example, then we would anticipate the amount of funds available for future regional impact projects will decrease.
Thank you, I appreciate that. The 2513, is that possibly impacting Inga Candler exit?
So I believe you're referring to the Liberty Road interchange. That is currently funded at the statewide mobility tier. There are parts of I-2513 that are also in the statewide mobility tier. It's mostly Section B. Everything. But Section AC is funded in the regional impact tier, so they impact and are impacted by a different set of projects.
Thank you.
Do we have any other discussions? So we do need to vote on these changes, correct? Okay.
I make a motion to adopt the amendments to the update.
And I'll second that motion.
Okay, thank you. Last vote. Asheville Kimrani.
Aye.
Asheville Sage Turner.
Aye.
DOT Division 13 Billy Clark.
Aye.
DOT Division 14 Chuck McGrady.
Aye.
Buncombe County Drew Ball. Buncombe County Parker Sloan.
Aye.
Canton Dr. Ralph Hamlet.
Aye.
Flat Rock Emily Whitmire.
Aye.
Fletcher Jim Player.
Aye.
Haywood County Brandon Rogers. I think you have that. Haywood County Kevin Inslee.
Aye.
Henderson County Sheila Franklin.
Aye.
Hendersonville Jennifer Hensley. Aye. Laurel Park George Banta.
Aye.
Mills River Shannon Gaunt.
Aye.
Biltmore Forest Drew Stevens.
Aye.
Weaverville Mark Endries.
Aye.
And Woodfin Jim McAllister.
Aye.
The ayes have it. Okay. Moving on to our informational items, we have the I-26 connector update, the 2513 project.
And With us today is Nathan Moneyham, as well as Tim Anderson with the division to talk about a little old project, the I-26 connector, also known as I-2513.
While Nathan's queuing that up, I'll make a note that 37 years in the making. I remember sitting in a class one time years ago, and they were talking about I-40 going into Wilmington, and it took 26 years, and I was like, wow, 26 years, that's, and I was young, and I didn't know not to say things that you think, and are we bragging about 26 years? You know, I was waiting that long to build a house, and I had to go ahead and build in the wider doors for the wheelchair, and she didn't appreciate my comment at all, and now we beat that record by, 11 years. So, but Nate's got a great update, so turn it over to him.
Yeah, thank you, Tim. This matter is making me think of Winston-Salem, the bypass around Winston-Salem, how long that took.
Yeah, very similar.
I'm gonna dive in. Appreciate the time, the opportunity to come give the update. I'm gonna actually go down the road a little bit before we dive into I-2513. Wanted to take the opportunity to give an update for I-4700, our ongoing widening of 26 south of Asheville. We are continuing, obviously, construction on the project. The last remaining work is really focused around the HE0001 interchange. It was added to the construction contract, and the exit 35, or what will be the new exit 35 on and off ramp construction, is underway. The bridge for the interchange and retaining walls are under construction. If you ride through there today, we're about to pour the deck on that structure, so it's getting close. Traffic obviously is on the new Blue Ridge Parkway Bridge if you haven't rode through there, and the old bridge demolition is complete. Milestones upcoming for that project: we do expect to have a traffic shift for the eastbound lanes back into their original alignment coming next month. We will keep that in a two-lane pattern on both sides until later this summer, just so we can continue to work on the sections of the interchange and the ramp tie-ins, and ultimately completion of the project is expected in 2027, January 2027. But really what we expect is as the summer goes on, we'll be able to open up more of those new lanes, similar to what you've seen south of the section there at the Parkway, and start to alleviate some of the congestion there even ahead of that January date. There is a supplemental project, HE0001B, that's the extension from the new interchange up to the roundabout at the top of the hill. That's under contract and beginning construction now. We also have some additional work that was broke out of the project for the intersection of Long Shoals and Shink Parkway, widening work and intersection improvements, adding some additional turn lanes, has been broken out of the project and is formally I-4700C, and that is scheduled to let in August of this year. Turning to I-2513, the section that's under construction now, I-2513AA-AB, that's the work out on I-40. We've got some current operations going. The substructure for the new railroad bridge is complete. You see that in the picture there on the right. Interior vents are done. They're working on the invents now. We've got some sound wall construction that's ongoing. If you're right out there, you can see. We've got some soil mill walls that are in construction, a lot of wet utility installation, sewer and water. We're doing a culvert extension for the westbound lanes, and traffic is in the pattern it's been in for a little bit, that phase 2 configuration with the outside lanes closed. The total duration is about 18 months. We're probably about 6 months into that. Upcoming, and what you'll see, kind of the next major operation out there, you'll start to see some concrete pavement happening on those outside lanes. And the completion of that project is holding steady there in March of 2029. I-2513AC, for our design progress, we're in final design. We're getting very close to submitting our final package for lead preparation here in the next month or two. The lead for that is scheduled in November 2026. From a right-of-way acquisition standpoint, we've got pretty much just a few remaining utility parcels that are still in active negotiations or condemnation. All contacts have been made for property owners, and utility relocation is in progress. Earlier this year, you could have seen Duke doing some clearing, and they're actually beginning their relocation work ahead of our November let. Worth noting, it was mentioned in the SIP amendments there, with the cost increase, which is really just catching up our estimate to the current construction value. We did apply the changes that were made to I-2513BD during the O&R process, which I've talked to this group about before, were applied to this project as well prior to that updated estimate. So we did do the same cost containment strategies and narrowing our shoulders, narrowing our footprint. All of those same principles that were developed in optimization and refinement of the larger section of the project were applied here as well to help try and contain that cost and the impacts of that increase as much as possible. For BD, again, just a reminder, we are under contract for design and construction with Archer Outdoor Venture. Our contract amount started at $1.14 billion through the O&R process that we've discussed before. We did save an additional $124 million off of that 1.14. And from there, we've obviously been working on design plans. Right-of-way plans are approved, and right-of-way acquisition is underway. Public comment summary and response is complete and available on the project website. If you just Google the I-26 connector, it'll take you to our website. If you go to the document section, it's the one right up top. But it is the formal response to the public comments that were received in the public meeting that was held in April of last year. Those responses went directly to those that made public comment, but are also available for anybody to review on our website. Ready for construction plans, which is the step really that gets us to the point that we can begin construction, are under review now for most portions of the project. And the final design noise report is expected to be completed in July. The draft is under review now by the department. For third-party approvals, we do have some things out that we're waiting on approval for. The biggest is the NEPA reevaluation. That's expected in the next few weeks. It's currently in FHWA's court. It'll be made available after completion of the FHWA review, which we expect at any point now. Our 404 permit, which is with the Army Corps for our impacts there, temporary impacts of the French Broad and the water resource impacts of the project, is under review. We expect that to be approved probably somewhere near the end of April. And then lastly, our CLOMAR is under review. And the CLOMAR is the conditional letter of map revision. That's really the FEMA process for us to evaluate the impacts to the floodplain of the permanent structure. That's been submitted and is under review by floodplain management. And we expect that will take probably a little later into the summer before that approval is given. As far as what specifically is happening now, right-of-way acquisition is in full swing. One of our priorities here is the demo of vacant structures. We're coordinating with both the design-build team and local staff, both city and county, and all those involved, including APD, to try and prioritize those because of the safety issues that they can become as we wait for demolition permits and asbestos inspections. But trying to stay on top of that as structures are required that are going to be demoed for the project, trying to make sure that that is done quickly and efficiently. We've got utility coordination that's ongoing with all our utility owners. Duke Transmission is probably the largest, but all the way down to some of the MSD and city water facilities. Those coordination efforts are ongoing, going well, and we're working towards utility agreements and the beginning of relocation efforts soon. We do expect that construction will begin next month in April 2026. That is dependent upon the FHWA approval of the NEPA reevaluation. So that could change depending on if that process is delayed at all, but we are planning and expecting, if we receive that approval, in the next couple of weeks, that we would begin formal construction on the project in April. Those initial construction activities would be isolated to drill shaft construction. Those would be outside of the permitted areas, so not in the French Broad. Really along the area between Riverside Drive and the French Broad River is where we would focus. And we would be doing drill shaft construction, which is the underground foundation for the new bridge initially. And those operations themselves wouldn't have any effect to traffic in any significant way. As more approvals come and the permit comes back and the Clomar is approved, you'll see us start to do more operations that potentially would affect traffic later this year, but nothing initially here in these first couple of months as we focus on bridge foundations. We do have coordination efforts that are still ongoing for several sections of the project, including multimodal intersection considerations. We have met with groups here locally, made up of some members of FBO and the public, to review the multimodal intersection designs. We took a lot of comments back, and the team is incorporating those into their designs and working on the completion of the signal designs. We intend to go back to those same groups once signal designs are complete for secondary review. We're in coordination over potential changes to the Patton Avenue corridor east of the French Broad River, working with the city on some of those and what potential changes could be made there that are more in line with the long-term vision locally for that corridor. Similar to that, we are looking at investigating some changes that potentially could be made at the Westgate intersection in line with some of the desires of the community. All those efforts are ongoing and will continue to get through the next couple of months. And really what allows us to do that is those areas of construction are in later phases. The areas there along Patton and through Westgate and across the river there on the Bourne Bridges won't really be any active construction in those areas until the bridges across the French Broad River are complete and we can take I-26 traffic off of Patton Avenue, which really opens up that area for work. So there is some time there, and we're trying to put that time to good use with the coordination efforts and trying to help revise those designs in line with the community's recommendations and the public comments we received as we move forward. So those efforts are ongoing, and we'll continually update the MPO as decisions are made and potential plan changes are put into effect. The other thing that I'll note that is new, as construction begins and things start to move a lot faster with this project once we're entering construction phase, we wanted to have a way that was a little more efficient for folks to reach out to us, ask questions. So we have developed, and this will be posted on the DOT website and shared with FBO and the local municipalities, an I-26 connector public inquiry email that goes not just to myself, but the entire project team, so that if folks in the public have questions about right-of-way, about construction, about schedule, whatever it might be, they can email to this I-26 connector at ncdot.gov, and it will go to the entire project team, and we can more efficiently respond to public inquiries that way. Any questions?
Yes, sir. Yeah. That's awesome. Thank you very much for that. Town of Woodfin's council had a representative from Buncombe County come and do an update on greenways to us on Tuesday night. And there's still seems to be a little bit of confusion on what's called the missing mile, how the greenway will come from the red to Woodfin, up along. And the delay supposedly in the past has been the greenway can't be designed or planned until they know where future I-26 is going to exactly go, where the piers, all of that. Is your design of future I-26 been completed coming north?
It has, and it includes multimodal facilities and a multi-use path on Riverside Drive itself that connects all the way through.
So that missing mile isn't missing anymore in your view?
From a standpoint of there isn't a connection that's made with the connector project. There is a separate project, and I'm looking at Tristan, he can chime in and fill any details about the separate project that would be the more greenway on the river that's in development now. And they are developing that project with the full set of plans and connector to make sure there's no conflict.
That's great, thank you.
Yeah, so just so folks are aware, we've had a small work group for the last roughly year and a half because there's a lot of different projects and moving parts in that river section. So yeah, I-2513B plays a critical role in making that connection between the existing Wilma-Dykeman Greenway and the planned Woodfin Greenway on 251. The I-2513B goes from the Broadway connection, where the Woodfin Greenway terminates, all the way down to Hill Street. There's a small bit between the existing Wilma-Dykeman and Hill Street that is planned to be connected with a project that's funded through the MPO. That is the Wilma-Dykeman extension. I do want to give a shout out to Tim and Nathan and the division. There's been a lot of work on this. I think I've given Nathan a few kudos that when the revised I-26 connector designs came out, the Greenway on Riverside Drive didn't make that connection. When we pointed that out, they were very quick to reestablish that connection. There has been a lot of work on trying to have the southern connection with the city's projects with MPODA funds to make that connection in a way that works for the city and works for overall regional connectivity.
Okay, that helps, thank you. You know, historically, some of the rhetoric has been, well, it doesn't make sense to start on your Greenway because it won't connect, and well, I think that's nonsense. This Greenway needs to move forward quickly. Thank you.
Thanks for the update. Any questions?
So I guess a couple more things to point out. One is to mention this has been worked on since 1989. I was 4 years old. And I mean, even beyond that, I think Section B was initially funded in 2014, Section A in 2018. For those of you who were around, there were some pretty big discussions about getting that funding in place. There is another section of this project that still is not funded. That is Section C of the connector, which finalizes the improvements for the 40 to 4026 interchange. That is in this round of prioritization. Not to give too many theoreticals on that, but there's been some discussion about some kind of store going in close to that project location. Is there anything DOT can say on that front?
We have yet to be contacted by said entity to further discuss the requirements of EPA to mitigate the traffic from their development. But we've got ideas, so as it moves forward, we'll continue to try to find a way to make things happen.
And we remain available should they contact us. Right?
Yes, continuously.
Thank you. And are there any, I mean, you're saying a kickoff is expected in April. Is there any event or?
I think we need to get past reevaluation first, so everything's kind of tentative until that's approved. But I think once that's received and made available, then we look to schedule something probably closer to the end of April.
Okay, thank you. Long time missing. Okay, an update on the MPO conference in Asheville.
Sure. This will be quick, but open to discussion. So we are, just as a reminder, we are hosting the MPO conference in Asheville. That's May 6th through 8th. So just to give you all a quick heads up on this. It will be hosted at the Crown Plaza Hotel and Resort. I was very happy to get a reply from Nathan the other week that there won't be too much construction underway at this conference. It'll be May 6th through 8th this year. Registration is currently open. And to note, early bird registration ends March 31st. That is coming up. We do have a number of mobile tours, and I do want to thank our local and DOT partners for helping to lead these. So we do have a tour with the Acosta Trail being led by Henderson County. Another one in the River Arts District being led by the city of Asheville. We also have an Asheville History and Art Deco Architecture tour. We have Highway Recovery Post-Hurricane Helene being led by Division 14 to highlight some of the work being done in Pigeon River Gorge. That tour sold out first. I think, is it the only sold out tour so far? High demand. Urban renewal and Asheville's Black cultural heritage is the last mobile tour. And just to note, May 8th, there are no tours, just updates. May 8th is usually a quick finale. There is a conference agenda. I do want to give big kudos to Daisy on our team, who coordinated all of the different submittals, got people together to help prioritize what would be on the agenda. There are 20 breakout sessions. And each of those sessions has different topics that will be shared. The full agenda is available on the website. We do have a keynote speaker, Gabe Klein. He is the author of a book called The Innovative City. He also was a director at the US DOT, can't remember the name of it, Office of Partnership with the Department of Energy, something like that. I'll work on that before the conference. And we do have an opening panel to discuss Helene and its impacts, as well as looking forward into the future on recovery. That will be moderated by William High. We do have members from NCDOT as well as local government representatives on that panel. And then Friday, May 8th, we will be having updates from a number of partners, including various divisions at NCDOT. Also, we have a social plan on Wednesday, May 6th. That is at the Grove Arcade in Asheville. So we are renting out the Grove Arcade, and there will be food and beverages. We're working with our conference consultant on the final details. Also, there's usually, at this conference, there's usually other social events, especially on Thursday, consulting groups, as well as other groups, including Women in Transportation, are looking at those. But that is what we've got planned. As a reminder, we do not have a CCC and board meeting scheduled for May. So this is what you have to do. But we do hope to see you there. And if there's any questions, comments, we're happy to entertain it.
Excellent. I appreciate all the work you guys have done on this. It's a lot. I was looking through the agenda and what work. Thank you so much. I'm excited about it.
Yeah, and I do want to reiterate, I've said this on small calls, but I keep finding myself getting anxious of getting upcoming deadlines and realizing that staff has already addressed that. I cannot be more thankful. But it has been a good amount of work, and we've still got some more to do before we get there. Thank you.
Okay, moving on to the divisional updates. Did you guys cover all the 13 when you were doing the 26, or do you have more to add?
Just a little more. Just a couple. As far as our project development updates, that list is largely unchanged since our last meeting.
Construction updates, just a couple small things of note in addition to the presentation that Nathan gave. The bridge project 4442 on US 19 over Reems Creek, they're actually doing a deck pour as we speak, so if any of you came to that area, you probably saw those operations ongoing. And also Haywood Road, they have started the concrete flat work for that project. They started daytime and now have moved to nighttime operations to minimize impacts to pedestrians and vehicular traffic. Also, with the time of year, paving, resurfacing, and patching have started back, so we've got several crews in the area working and have already started those processes, so be aware of potential lane closures and work going on all around the division. Glad to take any questions.
Okay, thank you.
All right, construction updates and Division 14, Haywood County, the same thing you've been seeing for a while is bridges. I thought it was kind of humorous when I came over today. One of the signs out there said alternating lane closures. So just beware if you're going through there and check your travel apps to see what's going on. I-26 in the Henderson County area is for the most part complete. For those new members here, you'll see percentages, completion percent hanging out 88 to 95% for 6 months to a year, and that's for like punch list items and mainly for vegetation establishment. Still don't have an update on Cooster Trail as far as when that should be complete. As you know, that was impacted with Hurricane Helene, which delayed that completion. And on that note, in project development, the other section of the Cooster Trail in Henderson County was advertised and did let just a couple of days ago, and there were bids received that actually came in under the estimate, which doesn't happen very often, especially for a design build project. So hopefully once those bids are reviewed, that'll be awarded and that the next section can be completed. And otherwise, that's the only new things for Division 14. A reminder, these updates, Division 13 and 14, are on the MPO website on the agenda and minutes page. So if you have any questions, just reach out and let us know. Or if you have any questions now, fire away.
I just want to say this really quick. Steve, I'm glad you didn't pat yourself on the shoulder, because I think we should pat the division on the shoulder. For those of you who are aware, a section of I-40, large section of I-40, was shut down for basically an entire day due to a severe crash that melted some of the asphalt and caused severe damage. I think the crash happened around 8 a.m. And the I-40 going east was back open by 6 p.m. right around there. Commendable work by the division. We were patting you on.
Yeah, they did a good job. I'll take the credit. Nothing against
Steve, I've noticed that since they went to thermal, every time we have a snow and we plow, it tends to take that yellow line away from a safety standpoint. Is the state, or is that a nationwide problem, or is it something that's just?
That's a 1,500-pound plow versus paint problem. It is worldwide. If you've got the extruded thermoplastic, it can roll up. Polyurea, it knocks the reflectors off. It's unfortunate, but that's why we have a pretty robust striping program, is to address that in the West.
Okay, that's all I need now.
Thank you. Okay, transportation planning branch update.
DOT wants to that.
All right. First big update is that NCDOT is doing a pass to our website to do ADA updates to bring us into compliance with the latest regulations for the American Disabilities Act. will involve updating, archiving, or removing many thousands of files. And so if there are any particular files you use a lot, I suggest downloading a copy in case something happens to it. But if anything does happen to it, you can always contact us or whoever, whatever branch hosts the files that you were interested in. But we're expecting to complete all of this work before April 24th, and it will be happening in waves, not all at once. We've already seen some changes in our branches' websites because of this. Next update, NCDOT was using a new inventive cement solution on US 70 in Craven County. And I wanted to highlight this because it was a way to get the concrete to cure much quicker in 90 days instead of 280 days. Excuse me, not the concrete. This is the soil foundation. And the lightweight concrete was able to get in place, spread the load, and anything that is dealing with troublesome soils, loose gravels, I think we can see some applications for. Another update: North Carolina DOT has submitted a proposal to the FAA for its electronic aviation program pilot, and there was a call for proposals, and what we put forward was a proposal to focus on practical real-world operations and focus on regulatory framework to get a small electric aircraft out to the public that can deliver people and goods between communities that are not currently served by traditional commercial aircraft. And unlike a normal hub-to-hub aviation model, electrical aircraft, air taxis, would have the potential to go point-to-point in rural communities, and have much more flexibility than a car, certainly, with mountains in the way, but the speed of a plane. And so since we were first in flight, we want to be first in E-flight, and we're hoping our application gets accepted. We'll know in about 90 days. And then finally, there's a funding opportunity. North Carolina's Multimodal Planning Department has opened the 2026 Multimodal Planning Grants. This is for bike ped transit studies. And so if you or your community hasn't participated in that, or if it's been a while, we're always eager to have applications. We do intentionally spread out the awards across the state. So it's not like this year all the awards are going to go east, and another year they're all going to go west. And one thing I noticed in posting is that it's not just municipalities that can apply, but also universities and colleges. So if you're tied into one of those groups and they need to do bike ped or transit planning in and around their facilities, then you can encourage them to apply. Applications are due April 13th, and any questions can go straight to the Multimodal Planning Department leader, Brian Lopez. All right, those are my major updates.
Thank you. Subcommittee work group staff update.
Our subcommittees continue to be active. We have updated reports in your agenda packet. In terms of legislative updates, there's not a lot, but I will reiterate that the Basics Act was introduced to the U.S. House of Representatives, and that is a bill that looks to focus on bridge maintenance and replacement as well as road safety. It's also something of note is support for metropolitan and rural planning organizations. Just to note, metropolitan planning funds haven't increased at the same rate as other funding programs. And so what that means for us is that we don't have enough metropolitan planning funds to cover our operations. So we supplement those funds with our surface transportation block grant funds that come to this region. Increasing metropolitan planning, I'm biased, it would be a good idea. That's my take. But there's also an emphasis on delivering projects more quickly. That's something we may want to discuss as well. But all in all, I think, we've talked previously about how the federal transportation law is set to expire in September of this year. And my understanding is this is likely to be one of what is expected to be several bills introduced as a potential replacement for the bipartisan infrastructure law. So we will see how things progress moving forward. Other updates, we have been up to quite a bit. The Buncombe County Pedestrian Plan held its first public meeting right here on March 9th. The NCDOT Freight Plan that is currently being updated. There's a regional meeting held here with freight stakeholders on March 10th. There's more meetings coming up, including one being hosted in Waynesville. Our Safe Routes to School coordinator, Ada, held an event, Confident Road Riding for Families. That was held in Black Mountain on March 10th. We held MPO new member orientation on the 17th. Yesterday, there was a Western North Carolina Rail Committee conference held in Morganton. I got to be on a panel between the conference and the beer afterwards. Not sure how much people paid attention. Tonight, we are holding a public meeting with on the Woodfin to Weaverville Greenway study. Just to note, that's looking at potentially, or how we would potentially extend the planned Woodfin Beaver Dam Creek Greenway north to connect to the Reams Creek Greenway, the planned Reams Creek Greenway in Waynesville, looking at corridors along US 25, as well as future 26. It's one of those things where there have been plans for a long time where there's a dotted line on connecting those two things, and how that connection is to be made, we haven't figured it out. That study is trying to figure that out.
Are you aware that on the survey that was sent out in that part of the website, that it was wonky and you can't see the routes colored? We reported, we don't know if it's been fixed yet. But
we'll check in with our consulting group, and
as of yesterday, you still couldn't see the routes.
Okay. We'll check in with that.
Thank you.
And also, our Safe Routes to School program has an ongoing art competition. Submissions are due by April 17th. There's more information on the Safe Routes to School website. Again, we're hosting the NCAMPA conference, and Strive Not to Drive is coming back May 15th through 22nd. If you or anyone in your community is interested in participating, please contact Sandy with our TDM office. More other updates. We've got the regional ITS plan that is currently underway. We have also released an RFP to begin our 5-county travel survey. That plays a big role in the travel demand model at the MPO and updating traffic forecasts. We have more requests for letters of interest, also known as RFLOIs, coming up on the MPO strategic plan, the Buncombe County Transit Plan, and the Four Seasons Boulevard Corridor Study. And last but not least, notice of funding opportunities from USDOT include the All Stations Accessibility Program with applications due May 1st. That's through FTA. I will note our next meeting, this is likely to be a much longer list, including the Safe Streets for All program. And just as a reminder, we adopted a regional safety plan that makes all of our local governments eligible to pursue implementation funds through USDOT's Safe Streets for All. I will also make another plug that it would be a good idea to coordinate if people are interested in pursuing implementation. I've been told, USDOT prefers doing one big award versus 10 little awards. But just to note, that's expected to come out in the next month or two. And I think that's all we've got. Dennis, anything?
Okay. Any other announcements, special updates from anyone? Okay, any more additional public comment for today?
I just want to real quick add for a Safe Routes to School update. There's a storybook trail at the historic Johnson Farm in Henderson County right now, and it'll be there for another week, and it is open to the public anytime during the day. So
wonderful, thank you. Okay, we can adjourn.
Thank you, guys.